Yes, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Weekly Roundup. It's week 34, closing up on the year. 2022 is almost finished.
Gee.
I'm joined by Cryptoinsightuk as usual.
What up,
How you doing?
homies?
How you feeling?
I'm good, bro. Been ill for the last few
You
weeks,
feeling
on and
better?
off. I was ill yesterday, so I'm recording today, but feeling much better today. Finished the newsletter, posted some cool stuff over on Twitter. If you've not already checked that out, go and check out the thread on the DXY
How's
because
that?
no one is talking about this, but we are. Gaddy. Uh, and yeah, back to you, bro. Let's get into
How am I supposed to follow that up?
it.
I'll tell you how I can follow it up with some not so amazing news that's going on within the crypto space right now. We'll link the first two tabs together here, but both basically telling us the exact same thing, and that's a couple more crypto exchanges are joining the list in terms of laying off staff. So as you can see here, we've got Aussie crypto firm SwiftX, who are planning to lay off 90 people. And then we've also got Bybit, who I'm sure you guys have all heard of. They are planning to lay off 30% of their workforce, citing a colder crypto winter ahead, basically. But because I've had a quick read into these articles anyway, both CEOs actually have made comments about why they're doing it, etc., and stuff like that. And as you can see, I don't know where it is in this. Yeah, it just says it here what the SwiftX CEO said. But both said the same thing in the fact that they're just doing it to safeguard themselves for a potential further decline in the markets in 2023. Basically, they're not saying they think it's going to go down. They're just saying they don't want to they don't want to run into problems if there is a further capitulation in the market. So it's obviously not good news that they're laying off staff. That's 90 there, and then 30% from Bybit. It's quite a lot, but you can see why they're doing it, and I think it's fair enough, to be fair, because the last thing you want is the market to continue to go down in 2023, and these guys become bankrupt as well because
Yeah.
they can't afford to pay their staff, etc.
Yeah, and I think that we're going to talk about this a little bit further in the article in the podcast, but I actually think it's a sign that we're coming towards the bottom when people start laying people off like this. We've seen
Yeah,
capitulations. We're seeing the people who are surviving laying off staff. Um, Obviously, preparing to see if we do go any lower, putting those feelers out there just in case. But I actually think it's a sign for us getting close to the bottom, especially even you're seeing it in Twitter, Facebook, all the big tech stocks doing the same thing. I think that they are making shedding the extra weight they didn't necessarily need, and that's how you start to build a foundational core team and a bottom in price and in terms of reflection of staff to price is what I'm basically trying to say. That's just my opinion.
mm. Yeah. I mean, you can obviously see it as a negative, but you can, if you really do look into it, you can see if you try and analyze why they're doing it, it's a potential benefit. We saw it obviously earlier on this year. We had Gemini laying off 10% of their workforce, and then Huobi downsized 30%. Coinbase trimmed 18% in the summer. So it's nothing new really in terms of crypto companies laying off staff throughout this downturn in the market.
Yeah, well, what it
Hopefully
means.
this is
Go on, sorry.
go on.
I was going to say,
I
I
was
thought
going
you
to say hopefully that's the end of it.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say, because I thought you were going to skip on. I was going to say, what it means essentially is that they're cutting costs. And if they're cutting costs and then
Yeah,
price action starts to increase so they get more traction, the profits are going to be back. And when the profits are back, they're going to look like they're doing much better with the extra costs cut, and then they can start employing people again. But if you're holding them extra staff and then you cut costs and maybe prices start to come back a little bit, you still might not be in profit because you're still paying 30% extra of staff that you may
yeah,
not need. So it's a good. That's why I'm saying that it could start to indicate a bottom, or at least sets us up for a potential bottom because it makes them have the potential to start turning over, or being more profitable on their balance sheet because they're spending less. Sorry.
that's a good point. To be fair, like I said, it depends. Just depends how you look at the whole situation, really. If you look at it with that kind of opinion on it, it's good. But then people, when you just read it as at face value, people see it as massively negative, like sentiment kind of thing. But I don't think it's the end of the world. Obviously, it's not good to lose your job or whatever, but sometimes it has to be done, like you said, for them to kind of like regroup and make money, basically, because that's what they're there to do. So let's just see how they get on. I think it's a bit of nothing news, really. I don't think it's makes in the grand scheme of things of what's going on in terms of like the other stories we're going to discuss today. It's not really as big. And one person who again is in the news is our friend SBF. So he had a bit of back and forth with Maxine Waters, who's a congresswoman here, and basically she's calling. I think she basically said to SBF like, in what indicated that she wanted to speak to him about the whole FTX collapse.
Hmm.
He declined, saying that he doesn't feel like it's the right time or whatever. And then she kind of came at him again on Twitter, saying basically not being as polite, just said it's going to happen. And it's just a bit ridiculous to me because I don't understand how people have lost their life savings, and I know we spoke about it last week and the week before, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. But how he's not been arrested or how someone's not been held accountable yet. So I think this is going to drag on into deep 2023 in terms of who's going to get the blame for what happened. But I've got some sort of suspicion that no one's actually going to get the blame for it, because if it weren't SBF who was behind it, who was actually in charge, and this it kind of sparks a lot of speculation because Elon Musk here, as you can see by this article, he said that SBF probably donated circa of $1 billion. Now we know that it's public knowledge that he donated, I think it was $40 million to the the Democratic Party there, but Elon was suggesting that it was probably close to $1 billion. So again, if you want to try and speculate, if you want to try and, I know that there's just a lot of FUD around this topic right now, so I'm just not trying to add to that. But if it is close to $1 billion, is that why he's been let off with the whole FTX thing? Is he actually in charge of the whole FTX, or is he just a scapegoat for it? Again, that's just complete speculation, but
Yeah, and we've talked about this for a few weeks, and it's just like we don't know. We aren't going to find out for a little while. Bankman-Fried does my head in because I have no clue what's going on, and it does my head in the way that we are dealing with this situation in general. I don't care who he's paid, what he's paid. Like, let's just find out what's going on, and let's be transparent with everyone who's actually got funds in there. BitBoy's trying to do his bit. I don't really like how BitBoy is trying to like do what he's doing, but he's obviously doing it for clicks too by saying, "Oh, I've got this information and I'm not going to share it yet." And it's like, well, if you've got information, just share it, because this is the whole problem with everything that's going on in like crypto in general. Like, our issue is that people have got information about things and no one's sharing it with each other. Just get the information out there if there's information, and then let's see what we can do with that information, whether it's right or whether it's wrong, whatever. Just release what you've got, and then let the market and everyone find out what they're going to find out. People are pretty smart in this space; they can put connections together. So I don't really get what's going on, to be honest.
yeah, nor do I. I just think like the whole point of crypto is to be transparent, decentralized, so everyone knows what's going on, so it's fair, right? But we're still getting things like this. Like you said, if BitBoy's got all this information, he's again, I've got nothing against him, but he's obviously doing it to create some hype over this because he knows it's such a topical, hot topic at the moment. So he's obviously just using that and leveraging it, so he kind of gets more clicks, etc. A lot of people are doing it. I'm not saying it's just him, but it just, when it's serious matter like this, I feel like it just needs to be out on the table so it can get resolved as soon as possible, instead of like dragging it on, creating more FUD, more negative sentiment, etc. Just kind of get it done and dusted. But yeah, like you said, we've spoken about that way too much over the past few weeks, so we're not going to bore you too much. But this is my personal biggest story of the week anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So Goldman Sachs reportedly looking to buy crypto firms after FTX collapse. And this is, when you read this article here, I'm just trying to find this quote that Matthew McDermott, who is an executive at Goldman Sachs, and obviously says here they're seeking opportunities, they're doing their due diligence in certain crypto things here. But here it says now that they're priced more sensibly, they're willing to jump in and buy these crypto exchanges or whoever they plan to buy, regardless who it is. It's like I was saying to Will off camera, and I'll just say it to you guys now. The reason why I'm bullish on this particular article is the fact that these companies like Goldman Sachs, who will arguably be one of the biggest and influential financial firms in the world, right? Why would they get into crypto if they don't think this is the bottom? Or because their main aim is to obviously maximize profit, etc. So they're going to be scooping up these undervalued crypto exchanges now at a price that they think is more sensible and more fairly priced, basically, which is what he's hinting in this article. if they did think the market was going to capitulate further in 2023, surely they'd wait another year to scoop up these exchanges. But no, they've come out and have publicly said that they're looking to buy certain crypto companies. So
Yeah, and I don't
it's like,
think that we would find out, particularly if they've bought anything for a little while after they bought it, because they want everything in place. And as soon as people realise they're buying things, then the price will probably start to push a lot higher, because you'll see that legacy like financial money is stepping into the space. Once things get bought, we will find out about it probably 3 to 6 months later. So if they're looking now, they were probably looking a few months ago, or just as the FTX collapse was happening, which probably means, and like we speculated off camera, is like they probably have some sort of involvement. Like, how do we know where this involvement comes from? And I know I'm going to let you talk about this, but like I know that you might say like what you think about potentially that Sam Bankman-Fried, like could they? I'll let you explain what you think about Goldman Sachs, but not necessarily Goldman Sachs, but
it could be anyone really. Like there's a lot of people saying this thing that I'm about to say anyway. Like it's not nothing new or groundbreaking, but people are kind of saying that SBF was used as almost a puppet in this whole situation, and he was kind of used as the scapegoat, and there's someone else who was directing it and basically pulling the strings behind closed doors kind of thing. And it's just I just think it's convenient timing how articles like this are coming out at the same time that the whole FTX stuff's happening. It's almost as if it was planned. Like this FTX collapse was, they knew it was going to happen. They knew it would obviously crash the crypto markets. They knew it would have a massive domino effect across the whole industry. You know, we've seen bankruptcies left, right, and centre. We're seeing potentially massive stories like we're going to talk about later on develop, which could cause even more catastrophic events within crypto and just your normal traditional markets. And then you got Goldman Sachs coming in saying, "Oh yeah, look, by the way, we're looking to buy these undervalued crypto companies now." So I don't want to speculate too much because, like I said, no one really knows what's truth and what's a lie at the moment within any story what's going on. But is there someone higher who caused this FTX collapse? Is it Goldman Sachs? Is it someone tied with Goldman Sachs who can now reap from the blessings and buy these undervalued crypto exchanges or whoever they're going to buy? But it's just a thought. I'm just putting it out there. I'm not saying it's fact. That's just me speculating. And yeah, but nothing too much more to say about that really. What do you think about that?
no, I
Do you think
think
that's a good
I think it's a
speculation
fair,
to make? Or
yeah, fair speculation for sure. Like I, obviously we don't have any proof one way or another, but we know what legacy financial institutions are like. They even do it with middle management in financial market. They'll say to a middle manager like, come out and make a completely false statement. You'll probably go to prison. You'll go to prison for these many years. When you come out of prison, you're going to be completely paid off for the rest of your life. And like, who's to say that they haven't? They might not necessarily even needed to do that with Bankman-Fried. Like I don't want to say what he's like one way or another, but a speculative thought of a way that he could be might just be an innocent kid who wanted to trade, wanted to do something cool, got in with the wrong people, didn't really understand what was going on, like he stuck to his trading, wanted to build more and more, saw that more money was coming in. As more money came in, he started to take bigger trades and bigger risks, and they just let him do what he wanted to do essentially, and they were like, yeah, don't worry about it, and then he blew up. That's one scenario, but another scenario obviously is that he's the mastermind behind all this and he's being a mastermind now.
yeah, I mean, what I was saying to conclude this topic is that we've seen worse happen in your traditional markets. Like, I guarantee if you look throughout the whole of history, you would see, and there's obviously, I'd say the vast majority of it isn't public knowledge and things that we don't actually know that's happened. But I guarantee you, a lot worse has happened behind closed doors than this particular story and that whole speculation theory that I was just talking about. A lot worse has actually happened. But so that's why I'm saying it's not out of the question at all that's speculation. But that's just me speculating. It's not a fact or anything like that. But moving on from SBF because I'm sick and tired of hearing about this guy now because he's annoying and his face is just annoying. But we'll move on with a little attack there at SBF. But we'll move on towards some CBDC news here. So Bank of Spain to launch experimental wholesale CBDC digital token program. Now it's not retail, so the obviously retail investors and etc. normal people aren't involved in this. It's just them exploring, testing kind of thing. We've seen a lot of stories kind of come out with CBDC testing, pilot schemes, etc. And Spain just seemed to be on the latest addition to that list kind of thing. And they just wanted to clarify here, the institution clarified that this new program has no relation with the current investigation on a possible digital euro. So they're just trying to see, like it says here, if they're examining the real possibilities and advantages of using CBDCs in this field, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
let's see how the testing gets on. I know you said off camera, like, you find this testing whole all this kind of thing a bit pointless, because surely it's just numbers on the screen kind of thing, which I agree with. But nonetheless, I guess you do have to kind of safeguard and test everything like this. But what do you think will come out on the back of this? Do you think anything will?
Yeah, I think in the article it says that they're starting in April and ending in December of 2023 with their testing. But I think the European, like the Euro CBDC, is going to be coming faster than that. Um, so yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens. What do I think? I think that CBDCs are inevitable. They're happening all over the world. They're starting to come up in countries with smaller GDPs, like we're going to talk about in the next article. But
Mhm.
so it's inevitable. Like, I don't understand why it's taken so long for people to understand what's happening. And that's essentially that all I've got to really say about it. And like on a wholesale level, it makes so much sense. Like, I know people are
Yeah.
scared about the retail level, and I understand that. I get every part of it. But on a wholesale level, just for settlement back end, it makes so much sense. Like, why
Agree.
meet at the end of the week and like confer your books and stuff? Just have it on almost an automated ledger that everyone can just see, and that's where that's gone. That's where that's gone. Easy. No one can lie. No one can manipulate. Boom. Swap it back. Even just within countries.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. And just moving on to that other story that you're saying, which is actually this is kind of crazy story, to be fair. Nigeria bans ATM cash withdrawals over $225 a week to force the use of the CBDC. Like Will said to me off camera when we were just discussing what we were going to be talking about in this episode. It's just crazy that a country in the world we live in right now is doing this. They're limiting the amount of people like cash withdrawals,
Hmm.
trying to eliminate the use of cash and trying to get it all digitalized. I guess it is the best way to do it and the most efficient way to do it. But I don't know, like, I think if you try to do that in the UK, for example, it would cause such a big uproar to limit someone and how much they can withdraw in cash, to try and force them to convert over to a CBDC kind of digital currency kind of thing. Like, I'm not. It's going to happen, like you said. It is inevitable to happen within UK, US, and all the your bigger countries, I'd say. But for for Central Bank of Nigeria just to come out and say no, you can only take out $225. I don't know whether it sounds mad or if it's the best thing to do.
I
I
mean,
just don't know. I don't really have an opinion on this at the moment.
I do want to stress that this is obviously a retail facing CBDC, not what we're talking about with
Yeah.
like Spain. Spain, we're talking about there in that example, a wholesale CBDC. So that was just like
Mm.
bank to bank. This is for retail. This is for actual like people testing it. It's the same sort of thing. This is the same thing that's being tested actually in India right now with the digital rupees being tested there. But I don't really have a problem with it. Like $225, I don't know how much that is like in relative terms in Nigeria. It
Yeah.
might be quite a lot of money, like 100,000
That's true.
nairas. I don't know. I don't know what their value is really. Um, but I also think that if you've got a digital currency, what you don't need cash for like big transactions really. I know people say, oh, you want anonymity or whatever, but it is
Mm.
like if I was going to go pay for something, I wouldn't really care. Like if I'm a good person, no, like without or a good person, like in inverted commas, and I'm not doing anything that I shouldn't be doing in regards to the law that's already set out today. I don't really have a
Yeah.
problem whether I pay in cash or in
I
like
mean,
in an
yeah.
electric transfer.
Yeah, no, that's true, to be fair. I mean, like, even now, I very, very, very rarely use cash to pay for anything. I'll only use cash to pay for something if that specific, like, restaurant, for example, prefer to take cash. That's the only reason I'd pay cash. But everything else is just Apple Pay. So I guess in our generation, it's fine to implement something like this. And if they were to do it here, I wouldn't mind, because honestly, like I said, I don't use cash like at all. It's just the older generation. I think they're trying to just kind of target them. And I guess it is an efficient way, like I said, to do it, but I don't know how much. I'm guessing $225 is a lot for, without trying to disrespect them, but it's a lot for your average Nigerian to have anyway for that period of time. So
Yeah,
I
but
guess if you did try to equivalent that to like UK, it could potentially work
yeah,
if you got that number right.
I also do understand that issue with like an older generation, but I still think even in the UK, like in terms of like spending in a week, like who uses more than £225 in cash transactions or really needs that? Like I'd say,
Yeah.
no offense, no offense, mum, but like the biggest spends that like my mum makes in the week are probably like shopping and energy. Like if you're taking out bills, obviously, like I'm talking about transactions, like shopping, if that's
Yeah.
clothes or food or whatever that might be. And mum's really like um, anti-online, but she still uses a card for those transactions, like
Same. Yeah.
for a food shop or to go to buy clothes or to put petrol in the car. She'll use a card, but if she's going to do little things like maybe she'll buy some fresh fruit from the market, for those sorts of things she'll use cash. But I can't see people spending £225 a week on like bananas or whatever. So that's the basically the premise that I'm making there. It's like even people from not in
It's
our
true.
generation, maybe the generation
Yeah.
above her might find it difficult, but again, their big bills and stuff probably come out automatically through like
Yeah. They
online
will do.
banking or direct debit. So £225 a week in cash is probably pretty hard. The only time that we personally might spend that much is if we were going to go out like for drinks or something like that, like a couple of times in a week. But again, like £225, still quite a lot of pints to get through.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, whether you like it or not, I think cash is just it's slowly getting like phased out of our financial system even now. So, and I just think if you look at back through time, even when I first like got my debit card, for example, and how much I was using cash at like whilst I was at university to now, even though it wasn't that much back then, it's still like tenfold less. Like now, literally, I don't have any change in my wallet or any notes in my wallet at all. I just literally carry my card. Anything else is paid for by my phone, kind of thing. So it's happening anyway. So I guess it doesn't, in the grand scheme of things, it's just going to kind of help speed up that process anyway. I think, and I think that's what Nigeria is trying to do here. But we'll move
I'm
on.
not saying it's right
Go
or
on.
it's wrong. I'm just saying that like I understand everyone's arguments against DBDCs. I'm not
Yeah.
saying what they're doing is necessarily right. Actually, I don't want to say that it is right, but I'm just saying that like it doesn't really affect us. Like for me
Mm.
personally, if I was just being absolutely honest, with no bias for or against whatever might come or might not come in the future with CBDCs around, whether they're going to be like controlling or not controlling, the fact that I have to pay if I can only take £225 out in cash if this was happening in the UK, like it really wouldn't affect me at all. Even if I almost had to take out like if I wasn't allowed to take out any money in cash, as long as everyone had a merchant that I could pay them for with my phone, it wouldn't affect me at all.
Yeah. Agreed. I agree. Um, we'll move on to this is actually another big topic. We didn't actually speak about it last week because everyone knows what's kind of been going on between Genesis, Gemini, and DCG. It's quite complicated because a lot of companies are involved, which is why I kind of stayed away from it last week. But just because, and I guess there wasn't really too much news on it last week as well because we didn't actually have this figure, which I've highlighted here. But crypto broker Genesis and its parent company DCG owe customers of the Winklevoss twins crypto exchange Gemini $900 million. So, like I said, the way I'm looking at this story is just like an absolute spider web of companies that are all interconnected with each other. And long story cut short, DCG owe Gemini $900 million. The reason why it's such a topical situation, A, because $900 million is a ridiculous amount of money to owe someone and any company. So if they were to default on that, for example, because I know they're struggling to find these funds, I don't want to think about the domino effect that's going to have on not just crypto but everyone else, like worldwide kind of thing. But the reason why I put it into this week's episode is just to let you guys know as well that DCG are the parent company of like asset manager Grayscale. They have their Bitcoin ETF trust kind of thing as well, which has also been under scrutiny in terms of how much they actually hold in their reserves. But if this whole thing was to unfold in the worst case scenario kind of thing, and it did trickle its way down to Grayscale, which it would, and it was therefore trickle down to the Bitcoin trust that they hold, surely they'll have to try and raise funds from somewhere. It would not be good. It really wouldn't be good, let alone obviously the fact that this is a Gemini or a crypto exchange as well. So that's how it would affect crypto specifically. But it's a developing story. Everyone's been quite hush about it in terms of releasing certain information. But like I said, this earlier on, like last week, this figure was released to us how much actually is owed. But there's not really been too much updates on it, regardless. Anyway, so whether news could come out next week saying that they've managed to find the funds and they've paid it all off, kind of thing. So it's one of them at the moment where it's still very much in the air, but it's definitely something you need to keep your eye on because if, like I said, it's a big if at the moment, it was to go down the pan and worst case scenario was to unfold, it will just have detrimental effects everywhere. And like I'll go out and say it will cause another capitulation within the markets, like crypto specifically there as well.
Yeah, like I don't think it's going to personally happen, but I don't know. I didn't obviously expect
No,
FTX. I also think
I
that
think it's too big to happen.
I think sentiment's pretty low, like in the market. So I don't think it's going to affect retail investors too much because I don't think anyone's really bought back in to then sell out of crypto any further. I think the only sell-off that you might see is obviously if they have to sell their Bitcoin. That might be a sell-off
Mm,
which might trigger some stop
yeah,
losses, which might obviously cascade a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be anything like the move that we had in like June or whatever. Like if we saw in June, like maybe a 50% move when
yeah,
Luna collapsed, we had a 50% drop, and then we had a bigger collapse, which is FTX, and we only saw like a 20%
but less,
drop.
yeah,
So
that's true.
like they're things that I am really taking into consideration. Like lots of people are looking for things like 12, 9,000 Bitcoin. I know that I've been a bull all the way. I think you can almost remove the FTX debacle from the perspective and just look at like these differences in like in moves. So
Yeah, I guess it was like 80 odd and then 37%. So if this was to happen, would it just kind of like trickles down here potentially? Like I said, who knows? Like there's no really like facts within the story yet. There's no one really like come out and says no, they can't finance 900 million. We're gonna have to default on that kind of thing. So it's one of those where we're gonna have to keep you updated on it. But you should definitely try and keep yourself updated on it because it could potentially, especially if you've got exposure to crypto. But moving on to our final piece of news, and again, we've not spoke about Ripple versus the SEC case in a while
we haven't.
on this show, but we're finally coming to the end of it now in terms of everything that they've got to file. As it says here, as the battle entered the final round, both parties involved filed their redacted replies in support of their respective motions for summary judgment on December 2nd. So to me, they've just both parties have filed everything that they need to file now. I think I'm correct by saying that, and it's a bit of a waiting game. And I guess we're just gonna have to wait until Q2 of 2023. In fact, do you just want to remind everyone the timeline of this case now? Like, when do you think it's the most probable date slash month it's gonna end?
Sure. So like I tweeted about this actually today or yesterday, like last night
Mhm.
maybe, and it's like it is crazy to actually even say what I'm going to say because it feels like it's going to go on forever. Emotionally, you're thinking, oh, it's not going to end. Like the case is coming to an end, like sooner rather than later now. We've had, as you said, the last document submitted for summary judgment. Now it's up to the judge to read the documents, and she can make a decision at any point from now until as long as she needs to make a decision on this case. Um, and basically, in summary judgment, she basically just looks over the case. If there's anything that she might want to make a decision on, and if she's not sure, she'll then send it to trial. So within this time, we could see a settlement any day, and if the settlement comes, then it doesn't matter what the judge says because the case will be settled and done. But James Fillan, who's like a popular attorney in the space, he's been pretty bang on with every date so far. He said that the last date that we should see from the judge is the 31st of March 2023. He said it will be before or on that day, based on what she's done in the past and how he thinks that she operates. I don't have a clue. I'm not a legal expert. I would presume if the SEC don't want the Ripple documents to come out, then they will probably settle at some point before that. If we're going to see a settlement, if not, then I think that the judge obviously will make her decision. The reason I say that about the documents is because if she makes a summary judgment and those documents are imperative to her summary judgment, then she has to release that as a public statement, and then people get to see the Hinman documents, whether the SEC like it or not, essentially. So if the SEC are trying to cover up something in the Hinman documents, then we'll see that. And if I'm going to give my personal prediction on what I think is going to happen and when, I think likely if we don't see the settlement, this is. So I don't know if we see a settlement. I always thought we would because 95% of SEC cases settle. So I would say that are more likely to see a settlement than not. It might come just before the judgment. Who knows? But if we were going to go to summary judgment, what I would presume, and this is a complete guess, is that Judge Netburn would decide that, or was it Judge Torres? Unsure, can't remember. Sorry about that, judges, if you're watching. What I would presume is that she's going to come out and say sales of XRP from a date, let's say 2013 up until 2018, were potentially unregistered securities, and they need to go to trial to discuss exactly how that works, and then the jury at the trial or the outcome of the trial will settle that their argument specifically. But as of 2018 until 2021, their sales were no longer securities, and those bought in the secondary markets were not securities, and that would bring all of us XRP holders out of the case. It would take all the eyes off the case for the judge, whose career's on the line, Genza's career's on the line, huge for Ripple, whatever. It would take all this pressure off the case, and they could go to court and they could argue about how much they're going to pay, whether they're going to pay, and what those damages might be. I did see something interesting the other day about a court overturned a decision, basically, that the SEC had made about EOS, saying that it's not the amount of transactions that they've made, because all the transactions that have happened overseas were not in the US's jurisdiction. So they actually took the fine down from, like, I don't know, whatever it was, to a substantial like amount less, because of the transactions that didn't happen within the US that the SEC were trying to put under the umbrella. So all those things to me say that, like, by March 2023, we're going to be out of this case as XRP holders, and that is my prediction.
Yeah, no, I think that's very spot on. Obviously, me and you spoke about this off camera, so we've both kind of shared similar opinions on it. But it's been a long slog. This, as literally as it says here, after 2 years. When March comes along, it'll be 2 years, 3 months kind of thing. So it's been a long battle, but I think we're almost there. We are almost there with this. But whether they do settle or it does go to summary judgment on end of March, it's a bit irrelevant at this point, because we've been holding on for so long. We've been, DCAing for so long. It doesn't actually matter to us anyway, specifically, and the majority of XRP holders. But nonetheless, the last bit of filing is done on that, and that is all the news done for this week.
I would like to quickly say, like, the judge is obviously going to be aware the 2-year anniversary for the case is coming up, so she might try and rush through the decision. But how cool would it be to see an early Christmas present, because obviously we got our Christmas taken away from us 2 years ago, to see it settle in and around the time that of the 2-year anniversary of the case.
Yeah, who knows? It would be lovely.
I'm putting that out there for the atmosphere, for the universe to bring back to us.
It could happen. Never say never. You don't know what's going on within crypto, and honestly, anything can happen, especially with this case. But yeah, other from that, there's not really too much to be speaking about. I think prices, look at this Bitcoin chart, just absolute sideways, capitulation sideways. That's all that's been happening, really. Nothing new to report on there. We have spoke about some charts in the newsletter, so I'm not going to dive into them this week, because that's alpha for our newsletter subscribers. But everything else has been sideways anyway, so there's nothing really to talk about. But I think that's a wrap for episode 34.
Peace
and until next week, we'll see you guys later.
A-Town down.